I'm Selva, 2004 to 2008 from Romney. 2010, I realized that I want to make films. Started with Life of Pi as an assistant director. And 2014, I met VP in BGM Hyderabad and convinced him to step into filmmaking. Yeah, very good film.
Yeah.
Made the film and we got acquired by Netflix. And right now I think I call myself a filmmaker. Till 2 years back I used to say I'm trying to make films. Now I think I can say I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah. And this film is out on Netflix, you should watch it, it's called Nila.
VP Rajesh, 87 batch, Pilani. And I was not into films ever. I was, the closest I got to was acting in some plays on campus. And I think Romney and I did one play together. But it was always on my mind to do something related to the films. And when I met Selva at the BGM in Hyderabad, I think the gods answered my prayers. Here was a passionate guy who had given up his very lucrative career in a startup to follow his passion. So I said, okay, if I can partner with him, this is going to be a fantastic journey. And I'm so glad that we met each other, and Nila was given an award in Cinequest as well in San Jose. And then finally, from the business side, to be able to sell that to Netflix and be able to monetize it and prove a point was really, really remarkable and very, very satisfying.
I am Sandeep Verma, 86 to 91 dual degree, MSc Mathematics in EEE. Did my MBA after that. I joined large marketing corporations like Levers, ITC. Did the grind for a bit. We used to do theatre in college, and I used to write also on the side. Was always initially in school days I was a little ashamed of my writing because no one supported it. Everyone made fun of it. So this remained a hobby. Then I joined advertising because I thought that some creative people work there. I ended up in advertising for the first year, still wearing a tie, and I couldn't still have a ponytail, and I couldn't. So then I used to write again ads. So my boss saw it and he moved me to copy. So that's the first time I started getting paid for creative work. I used to write a lot of TV commercials that time, and all of them someone else would make, and I would start to criticize them. My boss, that same boss. So after 1 year of that, he got sick of that, and he told me, I wrote an ICICI Bank commercial. He said that now you're going to criticize whoever I give it to. Instead of that, if I've paid you for 1 year now, use that money, make this, and if I like it, I pay. If I don't like it, I don't pay, and I stop criticizing it. Which I took up the offer, and then I made it, and in some weeks it got approved. I moved out, I made some ad films on my own. Got bored with that in the sense that I thought advertising is saturation at its best. So I wanted to get into story writing. I used to write stories on the side. So I started working with Mishra. I assisted him on Hazara by Shaisi. I got a co-writer grade also on that, by the way, though it's a script. I made, to cut a long story short, I made my first feature film, Manjunath. It just happened based on the life of the Lucknow graduate who was killed during his Indian oil days, which I did with Viacom and NFTC and me. So that took around 4 years. It didn't do well in the box office, did pretty well, was bought by Z, and a lot of people have seen it and liked it. I have been doing, in the last 3 years, I've done around 4 short films. This is the 5th one, I think. Fifth one, yeah. The Disguise is actually someone else's story, Riya Mukherjee's story. She had a wonderful premise, which both of us developed together. What I found interesting about The Disguise premise was that it showed the war under the war, in the sense that there is obviously we see in the Middle East, and we see Islamophobia, we see identity politics being played out, and that how it seeps into an individual's life, into children's heads, into 2 women in London, and what happens between the two is what I found very interesting. So I was treating it in a very intimate manner, which is what The Disguise was about.
Hi, my name is Jain Ramankutty. I'm probably the oldest here, 75 to 80. Graduated with an electronics degree. At that time, we had just a pure electronics, so I didn't have to do anything about winding of motors or anything, which I hated. So I got into circuits and things of that nature. So one of the fascinating thing about tech is tech has a huge influence on art forms. So video particularly, video and graphics. So I started doing a lot of work on graphics and videos very early in 90s. Designed my own chip. So I was very fascinated with how do you blend video and graphics. Somehow along 2000, in the 2000s, as the internet became more popular, it became the third sort of opportunity to deliver content into home. So direct to home is always a challenging thing because you have only two options. It's either satellite or cable. Both of us are monopolies, and it's very hard to get the content that the consumer wants. And the third option is, of course, your offline stuff like DVDs and VHS. VHS, of course, transitioned to DVD. So I was more coming from the technology side of things. And if you look at the DVDs and the VHS space was highly pirated. So in 2003, I started pitching an idea to the Bollywood industry saying that I will build you a platform where you will have servers in your premises, you can upload them with a library of content, and I can create a way for you to deliver it to end customers sitting around the world. And that company was called Umi Networks. And Umi Networks was purely into distribution. We were going after worldwide distribution over the top, which today everyone talks about: Netflix, Vudu, Roku, Apple TV. So we had our product in 2005. And we started gaining a lot of traction with a lot of the guys, but I quickly realized that in order to keep the audience engaged, you need to have fresh content. Old content has to be always purged off, and you got to bring in new content. So as part of that exercise in 2004, we bought our first pool of fresh content. The first content that I bought was Sarkar, which was with all the worldwide rights. So I got the exercise of trying to buy the content, meeting Ram Gopal Verma, what's the process. At that time, none of these guys even knew about internet rights. So we were actually in the process of understanding how to buy content with not only theatrical rights and variety of worldwide rights. And it gave me the opportunity to meet Nishit Desai, who actually transformed the media platform in India by making it legitimate, that it's legitimate to invest in media and be able to take the profits out of it. So all of that stuff was getting me all excited, and the delivery platform also had an ad platform on top of it. So we could actually dynamically insert ad into linear content, which was not possible until then, because until then you had to embed advertisements, brand advertisements, as a upfront process. So you actually bought the content, you bought the ad, you stitched it together through an offline process, and it was delivered in a linear fashion. So we were the first ones to actually sort of present a case where we can actually have the ad coming from a separate source, content from a separate source, stitched in real time and played at different geographies, and so we can actually manipulate based on psychography, demography, and geography for the first time. And we presented it to Rupert Murdoch, and that got us the funding, not for content building or platform, but actually for the ad insertion thing. So all this while I was getting more and deeply involved with the Bollywood crowd. I knew that I could buy the catalog, but I was still more keen on understanding why do I want to get involved in this, right? So sometime in 2013, I got introduced to Rucha Amnabadkar. She was the director for Hyderabad Blues, assistant director for Hyderabad Blues. She happened to be the daughter of my friend, and she was she was actually going to direct a story that was written by Rishi Bilwadikar. And so for me, I was looking at it more like, hey, this is a startup pitch that is being given to me. And in fact, in the evening, those guys came to my home and they talked about what the story is about. So I looked at it, they had the script all bound, and they had an Excel sheet talking about, they had a plan for production. And where I like to play is I need to have some role in this, to be able to help these guys. So it turned out the location is where I really worked a lot to find the location. So we actually made it as a low budget film, but we had a pretty high, actor list. We had Ali Fasal playing the main role, and Melanie Kunakuda as the, heroine, and we had Omi Vaidya, which most people know he's from Three Idiots. So we had the cast, which was good. We had a plan, we had a script, and it was a matter of just putting the budget together and getting it done. So that to me looked more like a startup. If I were to build a product, how would I go about doing it? So I took a look at it and got involved. The movie actually is now playing on Netflix. Its name is For Here or To Go. It's about the trials and tribulations of immigrants, particularly Indian immigrants, coming to the US and struggling to get their green card. But the beauty of it was played at CineQuest. It was also awarded because majority of immigrants, irrespective of which part of the world they come from, could relate to that story. But the story itself is not a specific language. It was English, Hindi, and a little bit Telugu, so it falls into its own genre. And it relates to anyone who has been an immigrant in the US. So now I went from sort of distribution, buying original content, now I've covered, so I understand where I want to play in the future. So with that, I'm going to give it back to you.
Thank you. So, I know he's a filmmaker, I know he's a producer, I know he's a filmmaker. I'm not sure how to categorize you. So I'm just like,
I'm the risk taker.
okay, the risk taker, that sounds interesting. So, Selva, I'll begin with you. You said, I want to make films. Now, there's any number of types of films that one can make, right? So, you can do the assistant to a big director thing and kind of try to get your own big film because you know the stars from the big director's film or whatever it is. You chose something else. What made you do this? Like, go the independent route?
I don't know, I was charmed by, more than charmed, I think the need for you to make a soulful film, at least at the point when I started, I realized that I had to do it without stars and do it in a frugal way, and then find the way to take it to the audience. And with the internet, I was confident that that was going to happen, one way or the other. And I was right at the boom of internet being a source for everybody. And I had watched a lot of films through torrents. That's how I learned. Whatever I learned was through torrents. So I knew that I could take it to
Piracy is bad. Okay?
Yeah, back in the day. Now you have your. If you wanted to watch a Bergman or a Godard film, there was no other way. And so I knew that I would figure it out later how to take it to the audience. But the way to find my voice and to translate that to screen, somewhere I felt it was through independent films and not mainstream. And while I say that, now I feel there's a shift in mainstream filmmaking where it's a lot more inclusive of the kind of films that I want to, the kind of stories that I want to say.
Right. So even when you were saying in bits that I want to become a filmmaker, this is the filmmaker that you wanted to be.
For sure. But in bits I didn't have that. For a long time I thought you needed to be privileged to make films. Wasn't as democratic. I thought you had to be born into certain families. And I didn't think so much about film. I used to watch a lot of films.
Right.
Because thanks to bits and the free internet. But I wanted to be an entrepreneur in college, and that's why I worked in a startup. I worked with Rajiv, who is a Vitsian. The name of the startup is Nallscape. He started in Singapore, and I was running the operation in India. I had a great time. I didn't think about anything, but there's something missing. I was going and selling something, making and selling something, but I thought I needed to add soul into it, and immediately it was film. That wasn't difficult at all.
Okay.
The transition from, I knew I had the best job that I had. Like, I was very, very happy working 18, 20 hours a day, feeling very blessed about that because I really believed in a lot of things. But somewhere I felt I was doing something that didn't come from me. I was being told to do something and I was trying to push that into the market. And when I had to ask myself, what's me that I want to sell? The answer immediately.
Cinema. films.
literature and
Okay. So when he pitched this thing to you, what was your immediate reaction?
Actually, the truth be told, he never pitched to me. I'm the one who reached out to him because what happened in BGM, he was going and approaching lots of people, and he just caught my attention, and I just followed him along and just observed him, and I was so taken in by his passion and the idea that he was constantly pitching to all the alumni. So I reached out to him after BGM. I said, look, this has always been on my bucket list. I want to do this, and I think we can make a great partnership.
You were literally going from person to person and saying, I have a film I want to pitch.
yes, I would have met close to 1,000 people, and I got a yes from the people.
Okay. That's amazing. No, so
So there was no fallback.
Right.
Like I started crowdfunding. The thing is, I don't think anybody else wanted this film to be made, and I really wanted it to be made.
Right.
And I didn't have any other option. And BGM, I knew it sort of at the last minute only. I had to come here and register. But I had it planned. We had a lot of cards made, a lot of interesting memorabilia to appeal to them. But I'm lucky that BP took the bite.
Okay.
And you know, for me, the story was very interesting because it's a quintessential, told so many times, but the way the script was, and I thought this is fantastic. And Selva had this vision that he's not making movie for India, he's making movie for a global audience. And I think there was something very, very interesting, compelling to say that this movie is being made in India, but the audience who will appreciate is sitting in North America and in Europe. I think that clarity of thought was very, very interesting and very satisfying to say that, look, you know, this guy knows what he wants to do and what he's trying to make.
So something, how would you define something like this? Is this going to be the model of the future where young filmmakers come and say, I'm making movies in an Indian language, but not necessarily for an Indian audience?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, I feel that should be the case. I hope it will be the case because I think. I mean, I'm very happy with the way he pitched. Eventually, PP or indirectly, and I'm very happy with the whole spirit with which he went about. I'm also very happy that Bitsin and an engineer, because when I did this, everyone used to laugh at me. I was like, I was a very single minority. So I'm very happy to see, and I think the more filmmakers like this with different life experiences will come, that's when the more global vision also will come. People start having different life experiences.
Right.
And they come into films and they look at the world in a very different way. And I think that's what we see happening. Because talent was always there. It's just that the worldview, because of the internet also, the exposure and being probably better, well read, I don't know, that's more exposed, thinking more, being more sensitive about matters of the world. I think that probably will start reflecting. I hope so.
Okay. Your comments on that, Jay?
What's that?
Your comments on this, the fact that one can make a movie in an Indian language and have it shown not necessarily to an Indian audience but to a global audience.
Yeah, so that was the premise for even Yumi actually. So the reason I went into internet was that the value of a content may be appreciated from different segments of the global population. So for example, my friend and his wife, both Indians, they love Korean movies. And they watch more Korean movies than even Indian movies. And even the Indian regional movies, they watch less, but the Korean. So it's about story, it's about how you tell it and how it appeals to the audience is more valuable. And that art form can't be contained. You know, that can be from anyone, from anywhere in the world who can actually tell a story that sort of appeals to you. So the only difference that has happened now is with internet, there's very little control that people can put. So you make the movie in India at a budget that is affordable, and you can actually take the profits from anywhere, or it could be something that the profit might be in the way of messaging. It doesn't have to be monetary profits either. You can change people's opinions around the world about your own culture. So I do see that you're going to find movie makers coming from all over the world who will produce for different geographies. And that, even for us, actually, the movie was produced primarily in the US for the US population, but it was also to educate the Indian population, because it was based on a true story of, it was based partly on a true story of an Indian immigrant who couldn't get his visa and coming back to India and started becoming an entrepreneur. So to sort of, it's an aspirational, motivational kind of a thing. Yeah.
So, but you see these as being theatrical movies or festival films, or
I think, I'm a strong proponent of digital first, because
wow, that's interesting to hear.
yeah, because that's how we, in fact, in uni we were proposing things like that. We said, the old idea of the windowing models in terms of theatrical, and before that, if you look before that, it's the radio and the theatrical, the TV, on demand. We said if you brought in online, you can create additional variations of what kind of channels you can create on top of that. So to me, strong proponent. In fact, I had the opportunity of talking to Kamal Hassan back in the 2005-6 time frame, and he was saying, yeah, if I can get something like that, I can go directly to my fans. It's almost like the Twitter model, that you have your own following, you know exactly what you're producing, the kind of content you're producing. So some of the stuff is going to start changing, and you can already see. I mean, look at the originals coming out of Amazon and Netflix. We still haven't seen anything about Apple. It's going to happen. Google will do it. So you'll end up with 5 or 6 different channels, which will all be originals that may not show up in the theater, because theatrical is very expensive.
There is a bit of a caste system in the Indian film fraternity still about digital, theatrical. You go and talk to a popular actor, I will not know digital first. I think with time, hopefully, the barriers will break, because a film should go where the audience lies. So if a particular film or a particular topic, particular subject is more suitable for digital first, what the heck? Or if something is right for theatre. I think that it's about time. Also about short films. I think they're a great medium. And they really penetrate, because smartphones is allowed movies to penetrate, and short films that allow short films to be seen more often. My left guy doesn't talk to me anymore, because I'm the 6th floor. In that duration, 5 times up and down is finished short film. So much of consumption is happening. So I think that feudal system hopefully will break down.
But do you think that theatrical, like a number of people that I've spoken to in the past year or so, viewers primarily, they say that they watch certain event films in the theaters, and the rest of it, they are interested, they bookmark based on maybe reviews or word of mouth or whatever it is, and wait for it to stream. Now, this is great in one way, because it's making sure that the film gets watched, right? I mean, so there's no problem with that, though probably not the most ideal of circumstances, because the most ideal way to watch something is uninterrupted and in the way the maker intended it to be seen. But let's say, at least it's getting watched. So if he makes a film, at least somebody is watching the film. But do you think that there is going to be a different kind of caste system there, but this time from the side of the audience, where they say that it's going to become possible only to make a certain kind of film for theatrical, and the rest of it is not going to be viable at all?
So I have my opinion on this, yeah, obviously. I think there's a social aspect of theatrical watching, and there's certain genres of content that is highly impactful when you watch it in a theater, because the size, the volume, you can't get that in every home, right? Unless you retrofit every home to become like a media center. And also having, it's not just you watching, it's the whole community watching. That has a different impact. So there are movies that has much more appeal in that sense. So for example, Avatar, the size of the screen is relevant to create
That's
an
the
impact.
event movie. talking about.
Yeah. So there will be movies, and those are incredibly high budget movies, and they take long periods of time, studio time to really produce them. And so there is definitely going to be that. I don't think you really need that kind of a screen and volume and audio for a drama that is simply sending a message across. You can actually do that in a much lower budget, on digital first, to a much larger audience. So there's both. You wouldn't take that and first show it in the theater and go down the pipe. It's a waste. Is what I'm
Two
saying.
things I just want to add here.
I'm just going to interrupt you before you say two things because I saw his Nila in a theater, maybe not theater, but at least like in a darkened space
Yeah.
with enough space between me and the screen. And I think it would be fair to say that experience cannot be replicated in a home environment because I think the very fact that you're watching, the environment that you're watching in changes the movie that you're watching. So you watch, to state a very obvious cliche, you watch Lawrence of Arabia on a big screen, and it's a very different movie when you watch it on a small screen. You're not getting that size and sweep. So I don't know if I would differentiate between films, but I think I see where you're coming from. You're saying that it doesn't make economic sense for certain films to come down the pipeline. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
More than the experience itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's one more thing that's happening. The home entertainment system is not stagnant. Screen sizes are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And
You are really a digital proponent. So.
If there's one thing that I love about watching movies is about the impact it has, both visual and audio.
Okay.
And so if I'm not watching the movie in a surround environment, it lost it because I'm not appreciating all the creative elements that went into making the movie. So if you really want to appreciate that for that fact, yes, you have to be in a theater because it's designed for that. But now home entertainment is also getting close to that. Yeah. Sorry.
So if you ask me as a filmmaker any day, getting my audience hopefully a full house, I can get with the proper Dolby and stuff, playing any different film, one makes films or composes frames for that. Having said that, I've made my peace with the digital transformation which is happening. So there's no point fighting it, no point creating a because the justification which I say is that okay, so you want to go and watch a movie, you mark it, you don't get time at the last minute, you don't go. There are a lot of audiences which we used to miss out on.
Yeah.
Because it is a pain going to the hall and you probably won't go as a companion or by friends. So a lot of audiences were not getting to watch, let's say if I look at my film, were not getting to watch my film. Because on that, Manjunath was started taking it off the theaters after 1 week, saying, so and a lot of my friends could not watch it. We had 1 weekend only we got here. We were half for the second weekend going off from the nearby theater. Now, if it's like 10 kilometers away, friendship is not that strong.
Yeah.
So yeah, any day that is preferable. But now let's make peace with it and then do the best.
No, that's the biggest challenge in theater, right? Because we released simultaneously 25 theaters in the US, but trying to get that foot traffic is no joke, and that budget is no joke. And since I was an investor, funder of this thing, I was deeply involved in understanding. So we were literally, like you said, drawing our friends. I actually used my hobBITS Alumni Association an evening session to film the first event in California, in San Jose. And so we actually offered it as a premiere, so we had a separate section.
So Seba, the one thing that whenever I speak to a Tamil filmmaker in Chennai, any of the upcoming yet to make films guys, they always say that they want to make a big screen film, right? So they know that it's probably going to be easier for them to make a digital film, but like he said, they're terrified that they will be classified as like a digital filmmaker and they will not get access to the big stars and the other things of like that. But you've decided you're going to make a certain kind of film. How is the balance going to happen? Is it like a project by project basis or?
Yes, project by project. With Nila, we actually had. I was very certain from the beginning that this is not a film. As you said, it's great to see it on a big screen, but going to a theater and spending like 200, 300 rupees, I didn't know if Nila was that kind of film.
Would you go and watch Nila on the big screen if somebody released it?
If you had a choice.
I would, but I wouldn't expect, because I love films and I have a special connection.
That's
But
very politically correct answer.
no, when the biggest inspiration for Nila was In the Mood for Love, and when they played it on PVR, we watched. So, and we had somebody who said he'll pick Nila and release it in theaters, the producer of It With Otaku. But we just felt that it's not the kind of film that you
Wow.
now anyway the shelf life of a film in theaters is a week or 2 weeks, or even if it's 5 weeks, but it's immortal in the digital space. And if you can make it in such a way that it stands out, Cary Fukunaga or so many Oscar winners after an Oscar also come make a film for the digital space. So I feel.
Is that how it's going to be?
I think so.
He wants to say. Yeah.
See, I think people are going to realize that this is working. So, for example, if you look at the Oscars list this year, Netflix is all over there. So, the more people realize, at least the filmmakers, that the world has shifted in that direction. I mean, you look at Irishman, you have every top A category person in that movie, and it's a fantastic movie to watch on Netflix. So I think it's happening slowly. Shah Rukh Khan saying I'm going to do some projects, etc., although he's not starring in any of them. My feeling is that the trend is very strong, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. So the sooner the filmmakers, especially the upcoming one, get out of that mold that you really need to do a theatrical release and start building their credibility in the system, right? That is more important rather than just waiting for that big break.
Sure.
Just one thing in this which worries me is that this notion that making a film for digital, therefore we should make it cheaper. The notion of it being made for digital, Netflix is not doing that. Netflix is spending a lot of money.
Yeah. No, in fact, much more money. They did it because the studios were not manufacturing. willing to produce items.
Yeah. But they're the only player. I don't know about monetization, about all this. I don't know. I'm probably not an expert, but I don't know where the money is going to come from eventually. It's all investor money, I guess.
That's him.
So he needs to do his investment banking and stuff and come back to us. And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the whole plan. That's why we have him on the panel. So,
But I think you are seeing the alternate source. I mean, if you go to Hollywood, there's tons of hedge fund money which has really backed a lot of big projects, right? Similarly, the crowdfunding has become another avenue to at least give that initial leg up to the filmmakers to go and showcase their talent. And I think that has changed, is changing, and I think that trend is going to continue.
yeah. Any questions from the audience?
I have a question. This that you have brought crowdfunding now. I didn't watch Leela, but I've been reading about it, and it is partially crowdfunded, I think. So yeah, and there's been a film in Telugu also which is crowdfunded. Surprisingly, both the crowdfunded films, Leela and the Telugu film Manu, both of them are love stories, are kind of love stories, and thrilling, kind of romantic thriller. And recently in a film company interview, Flamingo was saying, people stop making love stories for theatrical release. Like they are making love stories for digital space because people would tend to watch it in their homes with their cuddling their partners, not going to a theater and watch it.
I think you're confusing Nila with another kind of.
No. It is a thriller. Right?
I think the word's called chilling.
No, I'm quoting him. He told the. So, do you think, like, is it possible to make an other genre film with crowdfunding? Like,
Yes,
any other genre than romantic thriller or?
for sure. I think
rom-com?
it didn't help me at all with crowdfunding. The fact that it was for crowdfunding, I think there needs to be an inherent need for the film to be made, and Lucia did that very well. Pawan Kumar with Lucia, because Kannada film industry was on a different track, and he wanted to steer it in a different direction. So I think there needs to be a need for the audience to connect. If you want to make a film as a filmmaker, and with that appeal, I don't think people would care.
Again, Lucia being a thriller, like not an action film or.
You can make any film. You can make any film and appeal to, if that's the question.
His basic question is, if he wants to pitch a sci-fi film tomorrow, can he do it
Yeah,
through a
kind of
crowdfunding?
Yes, if there's a need for that film to be made and the audience find it appealing, they will fund it.
See, the point is that to put out the word enough so that enough passion people invest in it, because we are increasingly moving towards an age where people don't want to pay for things. So Royal Stag puts out a content free on YouTube and people watch it. There are 34 million, you said? Yeah. So if the same thing, they showed a preview and said, watch it for $10. Like $10 is literally like something that nobody thinks about spending today. If you're talking about $10, it's going to drastically drop. So I was just talking to a friend earlier today about how Ilayaraja launched an app for his music, and it was free for a while, and it got some million downloads or 100,000 downloads or whatever it is. He then, after the free trial period, he said $2 is going to be your monthly fee or something like that. 98% of the people did not renew it. $2, like in the US. So that's going to be the real question as to, because see, when there are so many options available, how will you find people to pay for your product? One way is to do, like he says, create an event movie that will that people desperately want to see. But I don't like that's going to be the really interesting question for me, because it's not that people don't want to see Nila, it's just that they want to see it free. So how do you tackle that part? Because he can't make it for free. So that's the real challenge that I think future films are going to play. I think, and also I think the economics of the film industry are really going to have to change in order to,
Filmmaking has become cheap, right? 10 years back it wasn't. Now you can make it for real cheap. Like cameras have gotten smaller, and people now, like there are so many systems that you can learn from the internet and make, like, so I think if you're, and for a filmmaker, if I have to speak about it, for a filmmaker, it's the struggle is only till you make one film and put it out there, and then you get the traction, and then you have people believing in you. For me, I had somebody who believed in me for the fact that I came from the same college. Not many people have that. So if the struggle is different for each of them, but it's only till you make one and put it out there, and if it can speak for itself.
So can I give you an idea? Yeah. So it needs. See, for me, a film is a product. So products, if you make 10 different products, 5 of them might sell, 5 may not sell. It's all about the appeal, right? And it's the way it's done, and the kind of scripting is done. So a friend of mine and I, we've actually looked at this seriously and said, okay, the real single highest value is at the story creation. That's it. Everything else is mechanical, it can be outsourced, it can be. So that's the experience I went through, to study and understand every single element, like for example, the location. To get the location itself is a process. And we actually used 2 red cameras. We had 2 cameras. I did not even know what a red camera was, although I was in the tech business. I found out, that's the best quality camera. And so it turns out I could rent the cameras. I didn't have to own the cameras. So we actually had a complete Excel spreadsheet talking about how many hours each equipment was going to be used. And so if you had come to my brother's office on that Saturday, Sunday when we were shooting the office scenes, it was a total mess. Yeah, the screen looked pretty clean. the final shot, everything looks clean, but the back was such a messy affair, and the wardrobe was actually rolled into the the corridor. It's a great learning experience for me because if I want to invest in these things, I want to bought or rented, and in fact, majority of sources now rent these things. It's completely available. But what you cannot do is actually the storytelling, and that's the highest value is the early stages, and that you can spend the least amount of money, and then you can find partners for everything else. So we are actually talking about creating a media fund focused purely on that aspect. So Netflix is absolutely looking for originals every day. Amazon is looking for original. All these guys, because they don't have the content, specific content, and so it's not. And this storytelling style, different styles appeal to different audience, and so it really comes down to the distribution. If the distributor, being Netflix or Amazon or Apple or Google, all these guys, when depending on how their content acquisition. Oh.
This is very enchanting. If you just go through the.
This is definitely a first for me.
So I think it's about there's risk in all this, right? So I think looking at it from a financing standpoint, it's about how do you mitigate these risks. So what we've realized is the lowest you can mitigate the risk at the early stages by creating the right kind of a content that can have a certain amount of appeal and figure that out. Then the production, post-production and all has become mechanical now. You can just outsource the whole thing and you can bring in partners to share with that. So that's the model we are taking now, and so this friend of mine actually is a Bitsian, and he's a professor at Wharton, and he's into marketing. So he has actually, reached out to me and he said, "Hey, listen, why don't we get into this in this fashion? That is, we actually pool a fund together, and then we can actually launch 6 different content at the same time." And the way you do that is exactly the way you do a company, where you have 6 different products coming out, means it's 6 different teams working on it. So if you had 3 writers actually writing stories at the same time, with different appeals, different genres, then you're actually mitigating the risk for the fund itself. But and then you check out, and then you can start repeating that. Yeah.
So now that you made Nila, is it more important for you to express yourself truly to your audience, or are you going to tailor your movie in a manner so that you reach out to a larger audience? That's my first question. The second question is, it's very nice to talk about how rosy it is being a filmmaker. Can you tell us about the challenges you face emotionally and in general? Like you would have faced a lot of challenges, whether it's financial, emotional, peer pressure, etc. These are my 2 questions.
Okay, so the challenges, I wouldn't say peer pressure or financial so much. I was lucky. If you ask me if I have a lot of money, I don't, and that doesn't matter. But I'm lucky with my family supporting me, so there was no challenge with financial or peer pressure, nothing. It's just the only challenge, okay, I know I faced one challenge, which is things don't happen at the pace that you want it to. The fact that you go around and everybody is telling you, yes, the script is awesome, and you've got like actors interested, you've got producers interested, but it still doesn't take off. And so this has happened for a while now, and maybe that was the only challenge. And so what I do is my primary interest is writing. So I've written for actually the next 20-25 years. I've realized that I don't need to write a new script. I've written enough for 20 years. So I've been using this time to write, and now I've got traction to like make one after the other. So I keep trying to reach out to more different avenues that way, like be it the web space and be it producers and actors who could do this big screen film, a film like Nila. So Nila started, it started because I wanted to make something that I can learn from and make a very, very the most economical film possible. So I knew, so it starts with constraint for me. I knew that I wanted to make with two people. Okay, what can I do? And so the fact that I can write, it starts from constraints. So I've written enough. So to answer your question, that's the challenge is the fact that it doesn't happen to my pace, and I deviate it this way. I try to write as much as I can, but that also I'm now exhausted. Now things have to lift off the ground. And your first question was,
Now that you made Mila,
do I want to reach out to large audience?
yeah, I mean, do you want
That's
to
the dream at every
or do you
point.
want to focus on expressing yourself to yourself?
Every time, with each product, with each thing, it's putting a piece of your soul out there. So there's no, I don't think, the only factor I can do with my writing is to know the limitations of certain standards. Like, okay, I know to bring people to theatre, I need certain things. I need an actor. A script can't bring the audience, at least. So am I writing something that would excite an actor to play? And have I got the actor? And if I get the actor, will he listen to the script? Then that's my way, I feel, to reach out to a larger audience. But with every story, even if it goes to digital, even whatever, the idea is to reach out to large audience, and that is with the strength of writing and the filmmaking. Like Parasite, for example, if that wins the Oscar, I think that's the hope, to do something and do it so strong and make the fact that cinema is born and based out of empathy. I think with writing you can achieve anything.
Yeah, I was just going to add to what Selva was saying. I think he's conveniently forgotten the biggest challenge we had. No, the biggest challenge was that during the production of the movie, our lead star decided to, not give us the dates that we required.
So Mila was made 1.5 times.
Exactly.
So who's the lead star?
The first time they made
I'm not
it.
sure if you want to say that.
You should say that. That's what makes this discussion interesting. That'll get to
So that's actually one of the. I really thank VP for bringing in his experience at that point, because I really wanted the film to be made, and we had spent half the money. If we had budgeted for 25 days of shoot, we shot only 5 days, and we had burnt half the money. And there's still post-production and a lot of things left. I didn't know how we were going to finish it, but the problem with me is also the fact that I'm so optimistic. And then VP stepped in. He asked me 5-6 questions, and he said, "You have to chuck this guy out." And that was not an option in my head at all. And VP said, "You have to chuck this guy out." So, and we did that, and then we made the film in 10% of the budget that we initially had. But it was a happy exercise because the team got smaller, stronger. We were literally spending only for. So the second time around, the cinematographer, I brought in my friend to our camera. My line producer made coffee and brought. He didn't even want to buy coffee. So, and we made it in 10% of it.
One last question I think we have time for. If anyone wants.
Actually, in terms of this question, now that you brought Lucia to my he made Lucia, this is a crowdfunded film, and then later he moved to mainstream cinema. Lucia was also a kind of a mainstream cinema. Then he later moved to a mainstream cinema. He made U-Turn with Samantha and the other heroine, Shraddha Shrina. So, do you have any plans of moving into mainstream to reach out to more audience?
Sure.
Answer that question, right? It was
maybe a film with
The
stars
question is
like Vijay, Ajit, or anyone like that. We can
Definitely, they're great avenues for you to go. Like a Vijay film, if it's watched by 6 crore people in a week, then that's a great way to share. Because it starts with wanting to share something, and if these people can make it easy for you, they do that. So definitely. But if your question is, will you do films like Mila again? Yes, I will definitely want to do these.
I'm going to remember these words.
For sure.
I'm really going to bring it up at some point.
I think there was a question there too. Maybe we can just take that.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a silly question, but since you mentioned that you pitched the movie several times, 2010,
Yeah.
with startups also, when you have an idea, it's all about the way you implement to spill the beans. Did you have that when you pitched the movie? Did you tell them something first?
No, with Nila I had no, because I knew that nobody would want to make. Like, it's such a simple story, and in general, no, I'm not scared. But
Not scared of what?
like revealing the plot, you're asking?
Saying the plot of the idea being stolen or
Okay, that way.
very too much.
But now, with the topics that I'm dealing with, I try to be a little more cautious.
So I think that's a risk a filmmaker has to take with some caution. But it's a risk one has to take. I mean, one can get NDAs and all that in the formalized way. But that's, I've always seen that's, if you're not going to, your story is your strength, right? I mean, as a filmmaker, there's nothing else you have typically, at least filmmakers like me. I don't have a big star already attached to the thing before I go. So if you're not going to reveal your best to someone who you're prospecting and hoping that the person will back it, then you're actually lessening your chances. So yeah, so I mean, I stopped bothering about that years back.
All right, thank you very much. We can probably continue this after this.
I just mentioned one thing.
Yeah.
Did anyone tell you look like this Malayalam after living for it?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.